Don't move.
Alright, so Resident Evil 2 is awesome. We can all agree on that. And RE3 is no slouch either. But when I reviewed those games some time back, I basically said that RE3 is great, but it was never a true sequel to the game that had followed. That didn't come until a year later, with Code Veronica, an often dismissed game in this legendary series. So, let's talk about it. I think we can safely say that Capcom was on a dream run with the first 3 games, all thriving mostly on the PlayStation, but as many will know, this game was initially an exclusive for the Dreamcast. Capcom was a big supporter of the system with a ton of games released, but we all know how that turned out.
Our next console likes to be a failure that loses lots of money. Let's hear it for Dreamcast.
Why do we have to stand here? This is so humiliating.
Now, I'm sure most people ended up playing this one on the PS2 when it was ported over, and maybe a few on the Gamecube, but they gave it a fair crack on its original system, with an awesome special edition console and 2 separate releases. It's clear they went all in on this one for SEGA, but just like Resident Evil 4 on the Cube, this shit just wasn't gonna last. So for this review, I'm going to be playing the version that was ported to other consoles, the X version. It basically just adds a few extra little scenes and some graphical changes here and there. You know, it's all pretty much the same game anyway, but let's take a look at Code Veronica and see how it holds up. Alright, settle in for Resident Evil's biggest game yet.
Her name is Claire Redfield. We caught her trespassing in our Paris lab facility 10 days ago. She apparently infiltrated the complex looking for her lost brother, Chris Redfield, one of the surviving members of RPD's famous STARS teams.
So our story begins 3 months after the incident in Raccoon City. Claire Redfield is attempting to make a daring escape from an Umbrella facility in Europe after trying to find out where her brother is. This of course manages to be the most over-the-top action scene in the series so far. I mean, surely they'll never outdo running away from a helicopter. Things are going well until we find ourselves caught by a bunch of baddies. They didn't count on our super badass action heroics though, so we shoot a gas tank and kill them all in one fell swoop. We think we're safe, but old mate here has other ideas.
Don't move.
We wake up in a cell at the Rockford Island prison facility and can hear explosions going off outside, shaking the walls. In the dark room a man walks in, so we flick on our lighter to find out who it is. It's the fella who captured us, but he's not looking too flash. Now he tells us we're free to go, but the place has been taken over, so he doesn't like our chances of getting off the island. We take a quick look around and make our way out, eventually getting out to the cemetery, but pretty quickly we're exposed to the horrors that have taken over this place. I love this setup. I mean, the opening cinematic is really silly, but it's a really good time, and bringing us to the island is a great way to isolate Claire. Anyway, we got cunts coming at us from all over, so we run into this next area, only to be fired at by someone in a watchtower. Luckily, this dead fella here has a gun, so we can shoot the spotlight and introduce ourselves to one of the most fucking annoying characters in the whole series.
Wait right there! I'm coming over!
Steve is also a prisoner and is trying to find his way to the airport so he can escape, but rather than do the sensible thing and work together, he just fucks off.
I don't want you following me, lady. You'll only slow me down.
Yeah, whatever, mate. Fuck you too. We start making our way through the camp, but this place looks like it was a shithole before the attack. We get caught by surprise by this zombie bursting through the window, but thankfully after this encounter we score some nice new guns to take on our merry way. There's this building that we end up in that requires us to store all our metallic items to proceed. I mean, what could possibly go wrong, right? Well, that'll come into play later, because first we find Steve poking around on a computer, reading up on our brother. We find out that Chris is definitely being monitored by Umbrella and send Leon Kennedy a message so he can warn Chris and tell him where we are. which is kind of confusing as I thought the whole thing was that we couldn't contact him. I don't know, this is often seen as a major plot hole, but maybe he's able to see the messages but won't reply so he doesn't give his position away, I don't know. The point is, we reckon if Chris gets the message, he'll come and save us, but even though Steve was the one that suggested we send the coordinates to the island in the first place, he apparently was just kidding, then just has a bit of a moment and storms out.
No way. He won't come. You'll just end up disappointed if you rely on others. Believe me, I know.
What was that all about?
Anyway, we take this emblem that we need to get through this gate and chuck it in this machine for duplication, but apparently the non-metallic material we need is back at the burning helicopter from before, so we find an extinguisher and bring the ship back so we can get on our merry way. So yeah. Next we find ourselves in this mansion, and after doing a bit of poking around, we accidentally turn on this projector, showing a brother and sister sitting together while she pulls off wings off a dragonfly. What the fuck's going on here, you might ask? Well, I don't know, alright? Yeah, there's some pretty weird shit going on with this plot, but it's great, trust me. So, after the movie, this back room unlocks, where we pick up this steering wheel, but when we take these guns off the wall, we're locked in. Ugh, fine, I'll put them back then. Jesus. We gotta leave the joint, but we hear that little bitch Steve cry out for help, so we run to find out what's going on, only to find out that he also tried to grab the guns, but is too much of a dead shit to just put them back, so we have to save the day.
I made it. Huh, that was too close. What took you so long?
Oh, I need those. Give them to me.
He won't give us the guns unless we trade something fully automatic for them, so we're gonna have to go sort that out, but first we're paid a visit by the main fuckwit in charge of the island. Now this bloke is spouting off all kinds of shit, accusing us of deliberately being captured to give away the position of the base, but he won't listen to us, so we dig at him a little bit.
I am Alfred Ashford, commander of this base.
Oh? You must be one of Umbrella's lower level officers if you're in command of a backwater base like this one.
How dare you!
Eventually, he fucks off, but this isn't the last we'll see of him. Moving on, we use this steering wheel to access this sub that takes us to this plane that we'll need to get out of here, but we need 3 of these thingies to access it, so we take this keycard and head down to the training facility where we're met with this graboid that we'll need to dodge to get inside. Things inside are even more fucked as we find the survivor in a locked room that we can't get to, and he's not having the best time, but that painting looks way too important to just be there, so we'll be back. To make matters worse, the facility tries to lock us in, so we quickly get out of there and soon run into Alfred again. He runs away, luring us into this trap.
Welcome, Claire. Consider the area you are in a special playground I have prepared just for you.
We're forced to move on where we find Stevie's guns and are also confronted by something new, a creature we've never seen before. We're locked in, so we take it down with a few explosive arrows. This had me pretty confident for the next one, but this cutscene had other ideas, and while we're being attacked, Steve makes his grand entrance to save us, which he manages to completely ruin immediately afterwards.
Oh yeah, that felt good. Don't worry, Claire. Your knight in shining armor is here.
Anyway, we trade guns and control this next section of Steve, obliterating all the zombies in our path until we fall off this platform and are confronted with a zombie that Steve recognizes. He freezes up and it looks like we're done for, but he quickly snaps out of it to save us.
Father!
This guy really has to do everything as cringy as possible, doesn't he? Anyway, Steve tells us his father was sent here for trying to sell secrets, and his mother was killed, so while here's a bit of a sook, we go give Rodrigo, the guy from the beginning, some pills that we just randomly found. Before leaving, we give him the lighter that Chris gave us, and in return he gives us a lockpick. We then head through this door that we needed the guns to unlock, which leads us to this castle where we eavesdrop on Alfred having a conversation with his sister, Alexia.
I am aware of that, Alexia. I will revive the family name myself and make you the master of the glorious Ashford family.
Do not worry, brother. I will handle them both myself. Who is there? Is someone at the corridor?
Weird people. Anyway, we start poking around and find a key for the mansion. We won't be able to do much here until we find a couple of these ant thingos for these music boxes, so we head straight back. This leads us to find this crest, giving us this keycard that opens up a little bit more of the training facility. Fuck yeah, grenade launcher. And another thing for the plane. Yoink. Not much else here though, but we did find a second crest, letting us access another part of the prison area. Now we can grab the shit that I left there before, and I think this pistol upgrade is pretty sharp. I couldn't tell you why this dude in the Iron Maiden has a music roll, but I'll take it. Things aren't all fine and dandy though, as we're confronted at the mansion doors by the one and only Albert Wesker.
It seems there's not much explaining to do, is there? I was the one who attacked this island. Who'd have thought you'd be hanging about? All the better for me. Now that the cat dragged in this nice surprise, your ever so caring brother will definitely show up.
We thought he was dead, but he was the one who attacked the island and released the T-virus. He thoroughly kicks our ass, but in the end decides to let us live, as we may be useful, and he knows Chris will come looking for us.
It appears you may be of some further use to me. I'm going to let you live a little longer.
Wesker's great in this game. The B-movie delivery keeps the silliness going, but it isn't grating like it is with Steve. Brushing that off, we find the first ant, and because I fucking did this out of order, I go back to the training facility and get this painting. Guess that's what happened to old mate. We take the picture, but one of these creatures busts its way into the vent, so now we gotta make a run for it again. With the painting in hand, we chuck it on the wall so we can get a key that unlocks the last room in the mansion that we need to access. After a quick puzzle, we get the second ant out of this vase and run back to the castle. We gain access to upstairs and finally get the last piece that we need to get to the plane, but as we go to leave, Alexia sneaks up on us. Before she can put us down though, Steve comes in to save the day. How embarrassing. Anyway, we go after her, but things don't turn out to be what they seem. Yep, it turns out Alfred and Alexia are the same person. Guess this guy's dealing with a lot, but once he sees this, he just kinda has a moment and storms out. Bit of a running theme here.
Wait a second. What just happened?
No time to dwell on that though. Old mate just set off the self-destruct, so we rush to the plane. We can't take off without raising the bridge first, and there's no way back over, so this means we've got to run all the way back around to the front of the mansion from the facility to get back, which gives Alfred plenty of time to send us a visitor. Seems like it should be scary, right? Well, it's not. This is barely a fight. You just lay some grenades into him while he slowly walks at you, then you get back to the plane and take off. Things aren't going to be that simple though, are they? In my big mouth. Now, unlike round one with the Tyrant, this fight is just straight up fucking unfair. Potentially game-breaking even if you don't have enough supplies, but I'll get to that. Anyway, after tanking a bunch of hits that are a fucking pain to dodge, we managed to get this guy to leave the flight early. Suffer in your jocks. Now, we make our way back to Steve, but rather than flying us to safety, Alfred has other plans for us, forcing our autopilot elsewhere. We get settled in. I mean, we've got no other choice, really, but with the downtime, we're treated to some more cringe by our good mate, Steve. Alright, let's settle down there, mate. Eventually, we realize where we are, Antarctica, but the plane isn't landing. It's crashing, sending us smashing into Disc 2. Seems like we're both still in one piece, so Steve reckons we split up and find out how we're gonna get the fuck out of here. We stumble upon the most horrific room in a Resident Evil game ever with this bug room. Don't worry, I'll bitch about that later. And we also stumble upon this fella. Maybe there's just some weird sex thing going on, I don't know. After we get the power going, Steve reckons there's this Aussie base that we can get to, but while he's moving this giant digger, he reckons it's a good time to check us out and crashes it into the gas line. Fucking dickhead. Oh, and after we go ahead and fix the situation, not him, Alfred shows up again, and he's pissed. Steve manages to at least help out in the end with some action moves, and Alfred manages to make things worse for himself by falling down this pit. That doesn't sound good. So we get going, flooding the facility in the process, and make our way towards the snowmobile, but this guy, he has other plans. Good one, dickhead. Anyway, we've got to deal with this guy ourselves, which was massively helped by the fact that I had kept these guns from way earlier in the game, and after a few explosive arrows to top it off, we save Steve and get going on the snowmobile, but while we're doing our victory lap, Alfred does one last thing before he dies.
Alexia, you're finally awake. Alexia.
That's right, Alexia is very much alive, and this bitch has superpowers, sending a giant tentacle towards us, destroying our ride, and seemingly dooming us, but a savior may be on his way as Chris finally arrives at Rockford Island.
Don't worry, Claire. I'm coming to save you.
Chris immediately runs into Rodrigo, but after a brief chat about Claire already making an escape, the giant worm thingo swoops in and eats him. Now, there is a fight with this thing, which I completely forgot to record, don't worry, you're not missing much, but at the end, Rodrigo gets spat out and gives us back our lighter before finally dying. No time to dwell on that though, we're gonna get out of this training facility. He will be opening up a lot of sections that we couldn't as Claire, but Wesker is still around and he knows we're here, so it's gonna be more than just zombies that we're dealing with.
Chris, I'm sending some company to keep you entertained.
Yep, we're back to hunters again, and if this robot spots you, it'll quickly have these guys come into the area and fuck your shit up, so the shotgun is quite necessary here. Despite all this, we're making good progress, but of course Wesker, he had to catch up to us eventually.
Wesker? He's still alive?
So this encounter doesn't quite go how we would have liked, with Wesker effortlessly giving us a hell of a beatdown. He knows where Claire is and is going to be heading there next, but luckily for us, Alexia distracts him on a screen. He quickly throws us away and leaves us immediately, as she's the main priority. Probably could have killed us right there and then. Maybe he thought the Bandersnatch in that tube was going to do it for him. I don't know, I wouldn't look too much into it. Aside from that, most of this section is just running around the destroyed base, getting these things that you used for the plane before, and pinching this crest off this fucker that's grown a fair bit since the last time we saw him. This isn't really a fight, you can just tank the damage and grab the crest, and next thing you know we're in Alfred's own personal aircraft hangar. Good thing they did all those aircraft flying lessons in Stars, eh Chris? This is fucking ridiculous. Anyway, pretty quickly we're running around the frozen Antarctic base, and what the fuck is that? Maybe we are at the Australian base. Anyway, we start picking a few goodies and take care of Wesker's pets. And then we turn the power onto this place before heading into the Spencer Mansion? This is one way to trigger Chris's PTSD, I guess, but Claire's down here, so we cut her free. We need to go, but she's poisoned, so we go digging around the labs, eventually coming across Alfred's dead body. After a bit of light reading about Alexia creating the T. Veronica virus, we find out where the serum is for Claire. On our travels, we're confronted by Alexia after pulling this fella out of the ice, who turns out to be their father. Crazy. Anyway, she leaves us with this big-ass spider that we just kinda run around, and aside from looking creepy, it really poses no real threat. We go help Claire, but Alexia shows up and taunts us a bit. We run after her, but she uses her tentacles to fuck our shit up and separate us once again. Now back as Claire, we go find Steve, who is locked up in this creepy room. We let him out of his restraints, which turns out to be a pretty bad idea, as Alexia has infected him and Steve quickly morphs into this giant monster, chasing us down in this room in what is one of the most fucking frustrating parts of the game if you are not prepared for it. Luckily, I knew this shit was coming, so we tank the damage and wait for our inevitable death, as a tentacle holds us up for Steve. Only Steve has a moment of clarity and saves us instead, getting mortally wounded in the process. We're then treated to some more cringe, which initially isn't as bad as before, but then becomes way worse than before.
I'm sorry, I cannot.
What are you saying?
I'm glad that I met you. I love you.
Back with Chris, we're witnessing Wesker confront Alexia. Wesker obviously wants the T. Veronica virus, but Alexia ain't having a bar of it. What's funny here is that after all of Wesker's tough guy shit, he gets his ass handed to him all around the room, then sees us and reckons we should be the one fighting instead, so he just fucks off.
Chris, since you're one of my best men, I'll let you handle this.
I mean, we found out all it took was a few magnum rounds to put her down, at least this time, and after navigating our way through some key finding with an eerily similar setting as before, we go find Claire. She's locked behind this door, so we have to set off the self-destruct sequence to unlock all the doors. We use this dragonfly key to access the area, and once we use the code Veronica, we're given 5 minutes to get the fuck out of here. Of course it just can't be a simple exit. Alexia shows up and she's pissed. We tell Claire to run, but she gets blocked in, and the Magnum this time just pisses her off more, so I guess it's time for a kinda broken boss fight. Phase 1 we managed to cheese through pretty quickly, but this bitch decides it's time to start flying. She's no match for this gun thingy though, once I managed to actually land a shot on her, and she explodes in an epic finish. We go to get Claire, but Wesker's gotten to her first. We catch up to them and convince him to let her go, but before our showdown, we find out that Alexia being dead hasn't stopped him from getting a virus sample, as his team has recovered Steve's body.
In his body, there's still a living T. Alexia virus. Steve should be a good specimen. Maybe he'll come back alive just as I did, and be able to see your sister again.
By this point, we're pissed, so we send Claire off and go to fight this guy, which goes about as well as it did last time. I mean, this fight is completely one-sided. He's simply too powerful. Even when we think that we've finally got the upper hand, crushing him under this enormous weight, he still manages to come back. It's only when we're split up by an explosion do we leave it and formally agree to settle this another time. Oh, we can only dream of what showdown they have planned for that. Anyway, we make a mad dash to Claire, who is waiting in a jet, and we finally make our escape.
Hey, you know that I always keep my promises.
I love this story. I mean, it's cheesy in all the right ways, and it manages to feel fresh while expanding greatly on Umbrella and Wesker, and it's a really solid follow-up to the first two games, but I've got a lot to talk about with this one, so let's carry on. Now, Code Veronica might be brushed aside from the main games in the series, but it plays a vital role in connecting the stories early on. It's easy to see how well this game slots in for our major characters here. You have Claire on the hunt for her brother in RE2, which pays off well with Chris coming in as a major player in the second half of the game. And to top it off, we've got Wesker back and working on his super bad guy act. While RE3 was an excellent game and had a great story, it doesn't quite have the same level of ambition that we see here. That's coming from someone who was always obsessed with Raccoon City too, and I always wanted to see more of that, but here we're getting a follow-up for main characters from two games while still feeling fresh. Obviously, the intro is bloody silly, but it's not like the series wasn't already silly in the first place, even early on, so you can just sit back and have fun with all the cheese. These games always made up for it with a great atmosphere, aided by some killer music, and Code Veronica is no exception. Rockford Island is a great setting and gives a believable feeling of isolation for our characters. The different parts of the map are gritty and disturbing at times, so they definitely nailed the overall vibe for this game early on. I mean, it's pretty consistent throughout the game, really. The mansion areas feel familiar to what we've had before. Obviously there's the Spencer Mansion references, but there's strong points everywhere. There's a lot going on with the Antarctic base later on in the game, and aside from getting lost, it's great to go looking around through all the different sections. I even thought going through the destroyed training facility as Chris was cool, even though the pacing can feel a bit off. It drags just a bit more than it needed, but opening up new areas and being forced to find new ways around was fun and pieced together what Chris needed to do to catch up to Claire. With all that, I'd say they did a pretty good job at making it all feel grander than what we'd had in previous games. I mean, the sheer length of the game alone would make you hope as much. I've played this game 3 times and it still took me like 12 hours to get it done. Still can't get better than a C rating though. Yeah, I suck, but anyway, this is a big game with a big story, and it tries to bring us a lot of things at once. I mean, this was the most ambitious game to date, and it manages to do a lot right. Your story is only as good as your villains, and Code Veronica is pretty strong overall in that respect. We get Alfred early on, who's quite a weird fella, but the whole thing around his split personality and thinking he's his sister is a neat idea. You'd expect him to hang out around for the whole game, but then he dies, and it turns out his sister is very much a real person and very much still alive, but rather than dealing with another loon with a gun, we've got a genuine threat with Alexia. Add Wesker into the mix, who funnily enough just happens to be there, and you've got a nice trio of bad dudes. Wesker at this point was just a baddie from Stars. I mean, RE5 was still 9 years away, and this is very different to what we got there. The whole reason Claire was even let out was because Wesker and his team attacked the island, which means Chris would never have showed up if she couldn't get out, so I guess Wesker helped out a little more than he would have liked. Good job, dickhead. Seriously though, the character is great. It's all hammed up a lot, as you'd expect, but, you know, the voice acting for most of the characters is fine. It just suffers from that cheesiness you tend to expect from that era. It really did take years for RE to work its way out of it. We've got the standard stiff delivery here and there, and while that's all fine and dandy, Steve manages to ruin any scene that he's in. His character's line delivery is really fucking bad most of the time and can totally take the wind out of a potentially good scene.
Wait! I can't! No!
It's such a shame too, because there's a lot of potential with the character. We've got the whole thing about his father getting caught selling secrets, which leads to his mother getting killed and him being captured. Really good story there. Why did he have to be so fucking cringy then? This is the sort of stuff that could be cleaned up if they actually do put out a remake of this game. We've got some stuff here that doesn't need to be changed up drastically from its foundation. It would just be interesting to see how it's pulled off with Capcom's modern approach. I don't want them moving on to RE5 first. Fuck that. We've got a massive piece of the puzzle right here that leads Chris to who he is in RE5. Get this one right, and after that, I don't give a shit what you do. Enough about that though, let's get back to something positive and talk about how the game looks. Now, brushing aside the dog shit Survivor game on PS1, Code Veronica brings us forward into the glorious world of full 3D in an amazing fashion. No more are we forced into crappy 2D pictures, we've got this next-gen machine here. Way more capable than the shitty PlayStation or Saturn. I'm kidding, obviously, those games looked awesome in their own way, and the pre-rendered stuff was cool as fuck, but what we've got here is an incredible effort to bring this series into the next generation, and this game manages to keep some of the old while bringing in the new. Pre-rendered backgrounds will always have their charm, and were especially great in the Gamecube titles that use them, but we don't lose the great details here like we may have if this game was made on the previous generation. Environments are still feeling lived in, with plenty of bits and pieces scattered about, which may have been hard to do before with so many assets on screen, but here we have rooms filled with shit, and no struggle at all having it there. Lighting obviously had a huge overhaul too, and they want to show you this shit early. No need to do the trick they pulled in Alone in the Dark 4, we've got a cool new lighting engine for our fully 3D game. This was a great addition. Obviously before things could be quite flat, but now lighting is playing such a huge part in that atmosphere. You can tell the developers were having fun with this, and one of my favourite parts is early on in the camp. You move around this room with all the undead roaming around, and all the food is left scattered around the tables, and the lights are just swinging above. Great stuff that couldn't be done before, but now we can. This building is great for showing how well the game nails the horror tones too, as you roam past these bunks covered in blood and dead bodies. You know what's coming when this guy breaks through the window. Of course they're all gonna get up, but it's great stuff. Classic horror movie shit, you know? Now, adding to the list of upgrades, we've got some nice new character models too. There's a lot more detail now, and movement isn't nearly as stiff compared to what we had before. We've got some pretty decent facial animations too. I mean, it's all pretty dated by today's standards, but this was good shit for 2000. They use less detailed models outside of cutscenes, which is to be expected, but it all blends together quite nicely. It's hardly distracting, unlike the cuts to the pre-rendered cutscenes throughout various stages. These must have been mighty expensive. I mean, these are a huge step above the earlier games in terms of quality, and while I enjoy watching them, you've got to look back and laugh a little bit at just how jarring it is cutting to these scenes. I won't go shitting on this stuff, I mean, it is what it is, and that's just what you got back then. At least they're a fun time, and added a fair bit to the production value of the game. Even if it is a divisive entry, we've got a high quality product here on a technical level, and the effort is right there on screen. The enemies of old look better than ever, especially the zombies. They look seriously fucked up. My biggest complaint with them is that there's no head pops. They probably should have added that in for the updated version of the game, but whatever, there's plenty of blood at least. On top of the undead, we've got a few other classics like dogs, spiders, and the always terrifying hunters, which is a fair bit of your classic RE lineup sorted. The hunters look seriously cool in this game, but there are a couple of newbies too. The albinoid thing is cool. I mean, they probably could have used it a little bit better, but it's cool. Aside from that, we got bats in place of crows, and the Bandersnatch is a neat addition. They look pretty decent, hardly the best enemy in the series, but you know, you'll be coming across a few of them. What I'm actually glad was confined to one little spot with these fucking bugs though. I'll get to the actual gameplay in a moment, but this fucking bug room is easily the shittest, most annoying part of the game. You run through, and these things will attach an egg to you, but when you leave the room, it hatches and you get poisoned. Whatever, you can go back and get the blue herb. But they can do it multiple at a time, and they don't hatch at the same time, so you're just waiting around until they hatch before you can go back, only to get another on you. It's such a fucking pain that I ended up just shooting them whenever I ran through, but I shouldn't have to, because this room just should not fucking be here, because it's fucking stupid. The only cool thing to come out of it were these zombies having bugs burst out of their chests. Otherwise, fuck this room. I'll leave it there or I'll keep ranting, and I really should talk about the actual gameplay. So Code Veronica is a pretty similar experience at its core to what we've had before, with some notable upgrades. We're still rolling with tank controls, but dealing with a 3D environment means the camera is able to follow us around while we move. While before we had to hard cut to the next frame, now we can get followed around the corners and along the hallways, while still keeping you on your toes here and there when the camera decides it'll make it hard to see exactly where the enemies are. This is such a welcome upgrade, and on top of that they also added a checkpoint system. I mean, I didn't use it because I wanted to see how good my rating would be if I didn't, but hey, it's there! Of course, we've got a lot of the standard stuff with plenty of key finding, puzzle solving, item management, all that jazz, but you can track your health on the VMU. Pretty cool stuff. The item box is the same, except for one major difference. It's shared between Claire and Chris, and it is essential that you know what you need, otherwise you might completely break your playthrough. It's really neat having this system though. You might find something as Chris, but you need Claire to unlock it with a lockpick, or you might want to swap weapons around. It's a really good twist on this magical item box that just transports our things around for us. Speaking of twists, the combat adds something new to the table too. While it's mostly the same while feeling a bit smoother, we've got dual wielding here as well, allowing you to aim at multiple enemies at once. I thought this was really awesome, but really the whole weapon roster is awesome, with a pretty wide variety of guns to keep us busy. The game sits well in its horror roots, but dips into action a fair bit. You know what? It's nice randomly having an AK-47 to play with. I do tend to enjoy this kind of gameplay when it's done right, and this game does do a lot right. I just wish the boss fights weren't so broken. The tyrant on the plane is pretty bad for its lack of polish, as you're just locked into this small space and his moves are super hard to dodge. Luckily by this point I already had a shitload of health items, but if you aren't prepared for this, it could easily break your game. The only part worse for it is Steve when he's chasing you out of this room late game. I know there's a technique to dodge him, but you're better off just loading up on herbs. The last boss fight can be the worst though. Remember what I said about the item box? Well, you better make sure you've left Chris the right weapons, or this can be a fucking slog. You tank plenty of hits here, so make sure you leave Chris the grenade launcher and you'll get this phase wrapped up nice and quickly. Phase 2 you're shooting in first person, which is awkward, but actually not that bad. Overall, the encounters in this game are all beatable, you just have to be prepared going in, but before I wrap things up, I better briefly mention the battle mode. This is pretty cool. I mean, the third person option will be pretty standard affair, but this also has a first person mode, which is really neat to see. It's not exactly well polished, but as a little experiment, this is a really cool thing to try out. I wish this had been expanded on, like, it would have been awesome if you could swap between the modes in the main game. Even if it is clunky, but oh well. Thought this was worth bringing up, but you'll be sick of me by now, so let's finish this one up. I really enjoyed coming back to Code Veronica again. It's one of those games that I feel like it gets better each time I play it, and while it's not perfect, it's a really solid entry into the series, and I really wish that we got a sequel of some kind on the Dreamcast. Of course, there's a few little things here dragging it down from being nearly the perfect original style RE game, whether it be some pacing issues, broken boss fights, or small little things like no exploding heads, but what we've got here is worthy as a piece of the original Resident Evil trilogy. I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. It could have been a little bit higher if it cleaned up a few things, but as it stands, it's a really cool entry into the series, so go check it out if you haven't, and I'll catch you next time.
There's still something we've got to do.
You mean?
Yeah, it's payback time. We've got to destroy Umbrella. Now, let's finish this once and for all.